So in this video, we're going to talk about a general mathematical method that we're going to be using in the near future to solve certain types of chemistry problems. Okay, this goes by different names depending on who's teaching the class. Sometimes it's described as crossbar calculations. In my class, I refer to it as widgets and gizmos. But whichever the name is, the method is generally the same. All right. So the general type of situation that you're going to use this in is whenever you have a question that's in the general form, how many of this are in this many of that? All right. So a sample question that you could use this method to solve would be this one right here. How many seconds are there in 3.52 years? All right. And I understand that most people, given enough time, could figure that out. But I want to show it to you in a more general format, because we're then going to take this format and we're going to use it for solving chemistry problems. The first step is to do what we call writing fractional relationships. Okay, and what this is to write down the things in a fractional form, relationships that we know we're going to use in solving this problem. So if I were to show this question right here, how many seconds are in 3.52 years? You know there's something between seconds and minutes. We know there's something between minutes and hours. We know there's something between hours and days, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to write these down first, and then we're going to arrange them. All right, so the first step, let me get my drawing tool. Let's use red. Okay, so one of the first things that we could say is that there are 60 seconds per minute. And anytime you have the word per, what you're going to do is treat it like a fraction, all right? You're going to put a numerator bar, and then you're going to write, so a lot of times we might just say per minute, all right? But the thing is, there is a number in the bottom. It's just that we don't normally say it. When you say there's 60 seconds per minute, what you really mean is that there's 60 seconds per 1 minute, all right? So the thing about this is that even though I wrote it this way, we could also have written this as the reciprocal. We could say that there is 1 minute per 60 seconds, all right? And I'm just writing this first example like that, but in the future, in the next ones I'm going to do, I'm just going to write one form of this relationship, and just realize that you could also just flip this over and have it as the reciprocal. So the other relationships that we're going to need here are to know that there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, that there's 24 hours in 1 day, and that there are 365 days in 1 year. So the general format of this crossbar is always going to be the same. All right, there's going to be they can either be short or long, but there's some things that are always going to be true about them. All right, now I use the analogy of a train. All right, we're just going to say that every train has an engine and a caboose, but that you can put as many cars between the engine and caboose as possible, or as needed. Okay, so what's the engine? All right, so the engine is going to be this section that you would have right here. All right, so what you have is a horizontal line, and it's divided into sections. All right, so this section right here is what we call the engine. All right, below the bar is always going to be blank. All right, so if you just want to cross it out, that's fine. And what's always going to be in the top left right here is going to be what the question provides. All right. In the end, this section right here, top and bottom, is what you can consider the caboose. All right. What you're going to have in the top right is what the question asks for. All right. So the question that we had is how many seconds are in 3.52 years? All right. So what's provided in the question? All right. We're provided with 3.52 years. So that's what's going to go right here. 3.52 years. Okay. And what's it asking for? It's asking for seconds. All right, so I'm just going to write that, the seconds right there at the end. We're going to insert a number in front of that, but that's the general format. All right, so here are the rules for how you're going to set things up. All right, because we can't go directly from years to seconds. There's several relationships that are in between that. All right, we are going to use these. We're going to use these relationships right here, and we're going to insert them in these spaces where it says cars. And here's the rule that you need to follow. The unit that is right here, and let me get a different color. Pencil. All right, the unit that is right here has to match diagonally with what is right here. All right, and that's always going to be true. Whatever is here needs to match diagonally with what is here. All right, and eventually you're going to keep on doing this. You actually want to do this with as few number of steps as possible, but you're going to do it until you eventually get to what the question asks for. All right, so let's show it with this one example. So remember what we're trying to get to. We're eventually trying to get to seconds right here. All right, but we can't do that. What do we have here that involves years? So we know that we need to have years in the bottom here. So which of these relationships has years? All right, this is the only relationship that has years. So we know that in 1 year, or actually it doesn't matter whether it's plural or singular, there are 365 days. All right, and so notice what happens there. That satisfies that relationship, that this unit right here diagonally matches what is across from it. All right, so continuing on. So notice we are not, we want to eventually get to have seconds in the upper right. All right, if we stopped right now, we would have days in the upper right. And so we know that we need to keep on going. All right, so what do we have that really has days in it? Well, we had one that we've already used this one right here. We're only ever going to use one of these relationships once in a crossbar. This is the other one that has days. So we are going to set this up. So when we're putting this in there, we have an option of either putting it as is or flipping it upside down. And you'll see examples of when we flip in a second. But we're going to put 1 day down here in the bottom. And we're going to put 24 hours here at the top. Notice we still don't have what we want up here. We're going to keep on going. We're going to put 1 hour, and in 1 hour there are 60 minutes. All right, notice we're maintaining that relationship as we go along, where this unit right here matches this unit right here. All right, this unit matches this unit. All right, and if we keep on going, there are now 60 minutes, there are now 60 seconds in 1 minute. All right, and so you have that diagonal relationship. All right, so what this does, what's the whole point of putting this together? It tells us what things we need to multiply and what things that we need to divide. All right, so if I was to do this, all right, pretend that this this crossbar is nothing but like one large fraction. All right, where on top we have 3.52 times 365 times 24 times 60 times 60 divided by, all right, and notice that all the numbers here in the bottom are ones. All right, that's not always going to be the case, but in this particular case, that's what we have. All right, so all we're doing is we're taking the numbers that were on the top, and those are all multiplied by each other, and we take the numbers on the bottom and we multiply those by each other. All right, and then what that tells you is what you need to put in the calculator. All right, and so this is the number that would pop out if you were to do that calculation. All right, so I know that most people could have figured out this problem even without doing this widgets and gizmos method, or sorry, without doing this crossbar. So the reason I call it widgets and gizmos is I think one of the best ways to learn it is if we give people imaginary relationships, and they have to, it forces them to use the crossbar. All right, so if I'm going to give this example right here, and these are just made up terms. All right, let's pretend that there are 35 widgets in 3 gizmos, and there are 4.2 gizmos in a thingamajig. All right, so I could write these two relationships: 35 widgets per 3 gizmos, and it's fine to abbreviate your units here. All right, and over here there are 4.2 gizmos in 1 thingamajig. All right, and notice that like it does not say the number 1. It says A. All right, but like A literally means 1. All right, when you're talking about math. All right, 25 miles an hour means 25 miles in 1 hour. All right, so now there are 2 questions that we're going to use these relationships in both. All right, so how many thingamajigs are in 200 widgets? Okay, so we're going to start off with our crossbar. So draw this line that goes horizontally, and we're always going to start with what the question provides. All right, so this question provides 200 widgets. All right, and we're never going to have anything down here. So what we want to get to, so keep your eye on the prize. We want to get to thingamajigs. All right, so let's see. Where's thingamajigs? It's right here. All right, so but to use thingamajigs, I can only relate those to gizmos. So we can't use this yet. All right, this one right here, though, has widgets, and I know I can use that because widgets, I need widgets down in the bottom. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to flip this relationship over. 35 widgets, and I'm going to put the 3 gizmos in the top. All right. So now I've got something that gets me to where I want to go, because I know that I need to have gizmos down here, and if I flip this one over, that would put thingamajigs up top. All right. So there are 4.2 gizmos in 1 thingamajig. All right. And in doing that, this now tells me what I need to put into my calculator. I need to do 200 times 3 times 1 and it would just be like doing this math right here. And if you do that, that's going to work out to let me do that real quick. And that would work out to this number right here. All right. For right now, we're not worrying about significant figures. We'll talk about those, and we will have to apply significant figures in these calculations. But this is just the outcome of plugging that into your calculator. All right. One other thing I want to mention is the units. All right. What ends up happening is the units will end up canceling out. So a widget here cancels with a widget in the bottom. A gizmo here cancels with a gizmo in the bottom. And so the unit of your answer is what's left. So that's going to be that many thingamajigs. All right. So let's, same relationships. We're just going to make one more crossbar. Okay. And so here it says how many widgets are in 54 gizmos. All right. Well, again, these relationships are still true. So getting from gizmos to widgets, well, in this case, I only need to use one of these relationships. In this case, I was able to use one of these relationships to get me directly to what I'm eventually after. All right. So even though we have 2 relationships, if you only need one of them, then just use one of them. If I asked you to go from seconds to minutes, all right, how many seconds are in 2.3 minutes? It would only require one of those relationships that we talked about before. All right. So you take these numbers. It would be 54 times 35 divided by 3. And you just plug those numbers in your calculator, and that would give you the answer. All right, so we'll practice that, and we'll apply it to chemistry pretty soon.